and what are those going to cost us, and then what does that look like in terms of a tuition level. We also evaluate the annual fund as well, which is the voluntary portion of our revenue stream. So 2 to 5%, I would think, based on what I see right now in the future, looking ahead at the next 2, 3, 5 years, I would like to think that something in that 2 to 5% range is what you can anticipate. I don't see any big curveballs coming around the bend. Like I said, the biggest expenses are things, structures, buildings, fields, natatoriums, gyms. And it's our intention, it's the board's intention to raise those funds. I would even go so far as to say raise them to the point that if we don't have the money, we're not building it. So what's more common around capital campaigning in independent schools is to get to that 70 to 80% threshold mark. So if you want to build a $10 million something and you get the first $7 million in commitments, then you put the shovel in the ground, hoping that the remaining 3 comes through. And if they don't, then you carry that extra 3 in debt, or you fund it out of operations. That's normal in independent schools. I don't think it should be our normal, particularly given our responsibility to the church. I don't think that's fair. So we want to avoid debt, pay for what we build as we build it, and use tuition increases just to pay our faculty more and to fund the program changes that we want to add. And for that, as your goal, 2 to 5% should be able to do that. Yeah. Other questions?
If our daughter's enrolled already, is she guaranteed next year?
That depends on who she is. The question was, if our child is enrolled in school now, are they guaranteed a spot for next year? The answer is yes, unless. So there are maintaining academic progress, obviously, requirements, and certainly maintaining behavioral progress. There's only 3 reasons why we wouldn't invite a family back for the following year, why we don't invite some families back. One is that a child fails to thrive academically. That could be on us, that could be on the child, it could be a combination of the two, but I'm not going to take somebody's tuition dollars if I can't predict a reasonable level of academic success. That's educational malpractice. I'm not doing it. I've got open seats at virtually every grade, but I don't need to fill those so badly that I'm willing to take a poor fit. So if your child is not doing well academically, obviously there's lots of meetings, lots of conferences, lots of interventional strategies that would have taken place before a conversation about not returning. But that's one reason a family wouldn't be invited back. And you would know that by now, by the way, if that was you. We would have already had that conversation. The other is behavior. Obviously, it's not a free-for-all up in here. Some days it looks like that. I had my boys' small group yesterday, and for the first 5 minutes, it did look a bit free-for-all-ish, but we settled in. You get 11 7th grade boys in a room, and fun things can happen. But we have behavior requirement as well, and a child that repeatedly is outside the norms of our behavioral expectations is at risk for not being invited back. That would be the second reason. The third is not one I like to talk about in public, but the truth about it is it's a parent partnership. This is a bit of a marriage, right? You and us. And we've got responsibilities in that marriage, and you've got some responsibilities in that marriage. And if one party's not living up, then the marriage could be in jeopardy. And so we have intentionally not invited back some families over my 8 years here, just due to insignificant or inability for a parent to partner well with the school. And I won't get into the details of that, but you can imagine just some people need to go find that greener grass, and sometimes I need to be the one to help them find it. So there again, heading into re-enrollment, which is in a week or so, if you fell into any one of those 3 buckets, you would know that by now. So those conversations have already been had. So other than those 3 reasons, yes, you are invited back, and that's true regardless of the grade level, from JK to K, from 8th to 9th, whatever it may be. In fact, it's our expectation that you're coming, that we're counting on it. And those 3 buckets, by the way, we're talking about very few numbers. Very few numbers. I think I've got in the K through 8, I think I've got 3 or 4 kids total on an academic hold. I've got a couple on a behavioral hold. So we're talking about very, very small numbers here that won't receive a re-enrollment offer. But yeah, we're counting on you coming back. Schools, generally speaking, independent schools, quality independent schools of the sort that we are, expect to see, on average, 93%, 90 to 93% re-enrollment. And so we shoot to exceed that each year. In some grades last year, we had 100%. Everybody came back. In some grades, we were well below 90% for a variety of reasons. But on average, we shoot for that 93 or above retention rate in our families. So we're counting on you. Questions? More questions. It's 9:20. We're doing good on time, I feel like. Any others? Yes. Yeah.
This is a completely selfish question for just one of my daughters. But the buses that you're acquiring?
The buses that we're acquiring? Acquiring,
for
sorry.
transport?
Yes.
Are they like the traditional school buses with the flatbacks and all that, or are they like the deluxe ones with the suspension and the seatbelts?
They're the deluxe ones with the suspension and the seat belts, yeah.
Oh, they are?
We're not opposed to traditional school bus design, but
Well,
thus far we don't run any of those. We would be open to those in the future, but we don't run any traditional designed school buses currently.
And are those the same buses you use for field trips?
Yes and no. So the question was, are those the same buses used for field trips? That depends. Field trips, if they're judged on number and availability of buses. So our preference for field trips, if we can use our own buses, which are the kinds that you just talked about, we do so. That's based on the availability of those buses, how else are they being used when we need them, and how many kids are going on the trip versus how many seats we have on the bus. If we can use our own buses, we prefer to do that for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is cost. A lot cheaper, obviously, to use a bus that we already own. Where we will contract with a contractor who does use school buses is when either these aren't available or our numbers are too large. And then for longer distance field trips, we typically use a coach. So these are the 55-passenger luxury jokers with the bathroom on board and the whole shebang. So it's a variety of choices that depend on availability and the number of kids being transported.
That's great. Is that new this year? Did you get a new bus?
No, it's been a couple of years since we've had a new bus. Last one we bought was also parent council. They love us well.
That's great.
Yeah, it is great. Other questions? And the one that will be running to Woodstock, by the way, is a church bus. So the church, as a means of exploring this, the financial mechanics of this, the church has blessed us with a bus that they already owned so that we didn't have to go out and spend money to rent one. So kudos to the church for that. Thank you to the church for that. So we can explore that Woodstock route without laying out a whole bunch of cash, either for a new bus outright or to rent one, which you can. But you can rent those buses, but it's a lot more expensive than renting a Camry, let me tell you. Yes, Mr. Montague.
Point out with the expansion of the athletic program in the upper school, that's put a significant additional amount of pressure on the need for buses that even impacts here. You've got upper school teams using the bus to go to a basketball game this afternoon.
Yeah.
With fewer available.
We rent a few buses every year for athletic purposes primarily. But we're getting to the point now where we can't rent enough buses to make all that work because you've got multiple, but particularly this season where you've got middle school girls basketball has two different teams, and that's just one sport and one gender within that sport, and you've got two full teams, an A team and a B team. And so not every team gets to ride a bus. You know, parents help out. Perhaps some of you have driven kids to games. Thank you if that's you. We can't have enough buses, to be honest with you. It's just, we're getting to that point. Yeah. Any more questions? It's 9:25. It's about time for me to let you go. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if you wanted to ask a private question. Thank you for being here. My door and my email box are always open to you. Heck, text me. Plenty of parents do. My mobile number's in the directory. So however you want to reach out, please do so. Thank you for being here. Have a great weekend.